Hello, everyone, and welcome to another round of Apex Online Racing Formula One action. We are here today for round number 7 for the Tier 1 PC Championship. We are here in Mexico City for the Mexican Grand Prix, sponsored by SimSok and Driver61. I am Fizzymon, and I will be your commentator today. And alongside me is Tipster. Tipster, are you excited for today? We're here in the state, or in the Western Hemisphere. Sorry.
Buenos noches, Fizzy from Mexico. It is an interesting round tonight. Mexico, quite the circuit. It's going to put our drivers to the test with some quite long straights in our circuit, as well as some quite technical sections in the stadium and at the back end of Sector 1 as well. So it'll be interesting to see what our drivers go for in terms of setup as they start lining up for qualifying. How have you been anyway?
I've been pretty good. You know, we had the break week last week, so I took advantage of the time. I am just tripping over my words right now. You can see I'm a wee bit rusty as a result, but it's been pretty good. I'm very excited here for today because both the European and North American leagues are in Mexico, and this is my favorite track on the calendar, in fact, in all of the games. So I am very excited to see what the 17 corners of Mexico City have to offer. Now, before we get into the action as the drivers get ready to go into qualifying, we're going to go ahead and take a look at the Drivers' Championship as it stands following Saudi Arabia 2 weeks ago. So, at the top, we have Jan Fehler. After coming home in third at Saudi Arabia, he still is our championship leader, 24 points over F1 Racer in second. Up into third, though, CDR Lucas, rather holding third position, but getting a little bit of a gap here in third with 62 points, but only getting 9 points last race. But Maestro Hoffy trying to get onto the podium for the season, 51 points, and fourth, the Haas driver jumping the Red Bull of Matty 29, who drops to fifth. Kev Genetics in 6th, up 2 positions, followed by Nico. Both drivers with fantastic drives last week, jumping up multiple spots in the championship standings, while Galaxy did not have such luck in his Haas, drops down to 8th, while Gelberman drops down to 9th, and Persigili up 2 positions into 10th after coming home in second after that fantastic last lap battle with Nico for the win. Crew 6 is 11th, our mate 12th, and Rivershan rounds out our top 13. As for the Constructors, Tipster, would you like to read us through that?
Yes, over in the Constructors, Alpine get their first points on the board. Williams and Alfa Romeo both more than doubling their points total so far. Williams coming off the better thanks to Nico's win, drastically closing that gap to Mercedes. And then it's very tight in the middle between Aston Martin and AlphaTauri, only 3 points separating them from the Red Bull senior team. Ferrari pulling away slightly, but Haas widening their gap further to 11 points now. But staying on top as we start to reach the halfway point of the season, McLaren are starting to extend their lead.
We'll see if they're able to keep that championship lead. Now we're going to go ahead and get to the track action here. 16 minutes left to go in qualifying. Drivers just coming out of the pits with Dominic leading the way out on track right now. 20 cars here today. Most drivers electing for the softs for their first runs, but a few onto the mediums. Now, strategy-wise here today, Tipster, it is going to be an interesting one. So, you'll probably see a lot of drivers here qualify on the soft tire because the softs are just lightning quick. However, this race is a 36-lap race, rather long, and because of it, the length and the fact that the pit delta is not as big as you think. It's 20 seconds, which sounds large. However, with such a tire difference between these tires, the two-stop strategy is available. So you're going to go ahead and probably see 1 to 2 stop strategies where you can see drivers go soft, medium, soft, 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 medium, medium, soft, soft, or you can see drivers go for a soft, hard, maybe even stretch a soft, medium, or do a medium, hard. So there's literally is a ton of different strategies these drivers can do here today. So as for guessing who is going to do what, I don't think, we're going to know what's going to go on here, but I do expect to see drivers up in the front go for the softs and probably go for a two-stop strategy barring any safety car. But 15 minutes left in qualifying, and it's looking like it's going to be a good one as Dominic is 2 sectors done with 1 sector to go on his first hot lap of the session.
Yeah, it's certainly one for the engineers in the audience tonight. Um, it's difficult to call on what kind of setup our drivers are going to go out with. It's difficult to call what
Oh,
kind of... Oh,
Rivershawn spun in turn 17, was correcting himself, and got disqualified from the session because of the game. Now, that is not something you see every day, and I feel really bad for him because there's no way that was intentional, and that is just heartbreak due to the coding of the game. So Rivershawn will be starting at the back of the grid in 20th. Now, speaking of qualifying, the Borner is also serving a qualifying ban today as well, so he will not start any higher than the back of the grid. Speaking of the grid, Armate and his Red Bull currently leading the way with a 15.0, Dominic with a 15.2, and Galaxy with a 15.8 on the medium compound of tire. But a lot of drivers doing their first laps. KevGen X here, you can see 15.7 on the board. Dominic also just got disqualified, or retired from the session, excuse me. As you can see on board, not Persegili, sorry, it was with Sky Kartoffel we could have seen. But if we look at Armate's POV, go on board with him, we might see Dominic's car is retired on the left-hand side. It looks like he lost control in the S's, smacked into the wall, bounced off of it, and his session is over rather early. He did get a decent time on the board, but F1 Racer has the new benchmark in a 1:14.8 on the soft compound tire. He is playing no games, not going out in the mediums. He's going right to the top on those softs, and we'll see how many sets of tires he uses. And that's another thing we gotta look out for here, Tipster. I mentioned a multiple stop race could be in the cards. We're gonna have to keep an eye, especially on these guys up front, like F1 Racer, Jan Failer, CDR Lucas, some of these guys who we expect to see qualifying towards the front. How many sets of softs do they use? Because if they use all three of them, it could hurt their race performance a little bit towards the end if they go for a two-stop.
indeed it could. And I'm just going to double check with our weather center now with regards to the race. It looks like it's going to be clear throughout the race, getting overcast towards the end, but no sign of rain. No sign of rain for the race from our weather center.
That is very good to hear. Wow! Look at Matty29's lap, a 14.5. That's an insane banker lap by the Red Bull driver. We thought F1 Racer set the benchmark. No, Matty29, a quarter of a second cleared the Ferrari and almost a half a second clear of the rest of the field. The Italian driver clearly likes Mexico, as that is a phenomenal banker lap for him. Now, we'll see if he can hold on to the front. A lot of drivers, as you can see, on the medium tire as well. You can see multiple laps done by Jan Failer, done by Kev Genetics, kind of just burning up time, using the mediums, doing in a couple laps, seeing what they can do as quick as possible. Because while I said, personally, from my practicing, I think that the soft, medium, soft is going to be the strategy you're going to go for if you're starting in the top 10, unless you can qualify on the mediums in the top 10. Looking at Jan Failer right now, he's a 10th up on his time, but a 10th would only get him up into 10th. So it's not looking like the mediums are going to be the qualifying tire if you want to start within the top 10 here today, Tipster. I think it's going to be more of top 10 on softs, everyone else with the free tire strategy.
Well, it is such a tight field as we've seen over the past 6 rounds here. As Krusix comes in and goes pole with a 1:14.3 on the softs. I was looking through some older data earlier. We're looking towards potentially 1:13s or even 1:12s in some circumstances at this circuit. So it'll be interesting to see if our drivers can pull any more time out of those cars. That may have been before the handling update though, so I'm not entirely sure how accurate that data is.
I don't think 112s are on the cards, but 113s could be. Krusix with a 1:14.3 banker. That's a really good lap. Another thing to note, Jan Failer, I said he was only 10th up through Sector 1. He was 4/10ths up through Sector 2, but he bailed on the lap. Now, 4/10ths would have put him P8 as it stands, but that's not really like the kind of time that he probably would have wanted to do. So he backed out of it, decided, all right, it's time to get ready for those softs. As you can see, his teammate HD Storm finishing up a banker lap right now with a 1:17.0. But Krusix setting the board with a 1:14.3. I would not be surprised if we see a 1:13.9, 1:13.8 even for pole position today. So I think you nailed that in the coffin. But I think the 112s were pre-performance handling update, because if you could do that, Like, I think that would be very impressive, but I think time trial, the world record, correct me if I'm wrong, is like a 13-1.
It may well be. It may well be. This was from a couple of seasons ago.
Ooh,
Um,
Lucas just
as
retired from the session. Sorry to cut you off, but he's retired from the session without a lap time set. That's interesting.
that is an interesting. I don't quite know what to say to that. To be fair, we'll see what happens. Maybe they want to start towards the back. Maybe they want to preserve their tires for the race. But it doesn't seem like. Yeah, they have. They've retired in the pit lane, so no particular reason why they could have opted for that strategy.
I don't know, that's for sure, but F1 Racer right now is on a pretty good lap, so let's ride on board with him and just let him take him through it. Now, we're only going to get on board with him out of turn number 6, now through 7, carrying 5th gear, trying to carry as much speed as possible, flat out through 7, 8, 9, 10, and 11. Keeping it just within the track limits, nice and clean, traction down. Now it's just one sector to go. He's lost a little bit of time, so I'm not sure this will be the improvement he is looking for. Xerox, I believe one of our new drivers here today, is on pole position right now, provisionally. But F1 Racer is going to come out of the final corner. I don't really think this is going to be that much of an improvement for the German driver, crossing the line to 14.7. He does get a 10th, but still 4 tenths off a pole. But Xerox with a 14.2 tipster.
Yeah, Xerox in the Williams with Nico this week, I believe, and yeah, really showing that the reserves have got what it takes when it comes to driving on circuit, and really showing up everybody else at the moment, almost a full 10th ahead of Crew 6's time.
Yeah, the Frenchman with a very good first lap of the session. He said hello to everyone right now, but let's keep an eye on our championship leader, Jan Fehler. What's he doing right now? He is starting another flying lap, so we'll ride on board with him. Let's let Jan Fehler take us through a lap, through turn number 1, down to 3rd gear. He does have Sky Kartoffel not too far ahead, so this could make Fehler mad, but Sky Kartoffel does get out of the way. Fehler might have lost a little bit of time through dirty air. HD Storm, meanwhile, has crashed out of the final sector and is out of the session. There, look at that, almost a half second faster through sector 1 alone. Now going through turns 4 and 5. Now this is actually turn 6, not 6 and 7, but through turn 6. Loses a little bit of the rear there, had to slide a little bit, but holding it steady right now. Kevin Ice is disconnected, we'll get him back in here now, but through the S's, Jan Fehler using all of the track, keeping the power down, 7th gear, lifted slightly. That might have cost him a half a tenth there, but he's 1.3 seconds quicker right now. Purple through the middle sector. Can he get a purple lap? What does the German driver have in store? Matty 29 goes purple, but that lockup surely just messed up Fehler's chances of getting provisional pole position now through the final corner, flat out to the line. What's it going to be? Jan Fehler does go to the top. It's a 14.234, barely pips Matty 29, but there's got to be at least a 10th there, Tipster, considering he locked up horribly into 13 and completely missed that apex.
Yep, we are starting to get to the cutting edge of the session now. 6 minutes left on the clock. And as you can see, with the difference between Matty and Fehler there, there's very little margin in those times now.
Yes, there is. There is just nothing in between them. Matty Fehler and Xerox right there. Crew 6 only 0.122 behind. But we have 5.5 minutes left to go. Times are coming in. Crew 6 is on the lap. Let's keep an eye on the Aston Martin driver. His teammate's right in front of him. So we'll see if he maybe gets a little bit of a slipstream throughout this lap. We'll have to wait and see what Crew 6 can do using all the track as well. But that's going to be an invalidation for the Aston Martin driver. That is heartbreaking. But what is his teammate doing up the grid? Crew 6 was actually 2 tenths improved up until that invalidation. So it is heartbreak for him. But his teammate, who has not set a lap time right now, is coming through the final few corners. What does Gelbovan have to offer? You know, he's surrounded by a lot of cars who have retired from the session. As Gelbovan goes up into 5th, not a bad lap, 14.366. Still 0.1 off of pole position. So he has a little bit of a ways to go. But the Aston Martin drivers with a good 4th and 5th right now in qualifying with a over 2 tenths buffer to the Haas of Maester Hoffy in 6th. We are also going to give KevGenex a quick little backup invite. We don't, if he's going to have connection issues, that's fine. We'll just get him back in here. Make sure he has those backup invites to work with. But for the meantime, we have 15 runners left in qualifying. One of them, Rivershine, unfortunately got disqualified. Excuse me, after having a spin in the final corner. And the game said, nope, we're going to disqualify you. So that is heartbreak. We had the Borner. He is serving a qualifying ban, so he had to retire from the session. Lucas decided to not set a lap time down. He retired in the pit lane. And then HD Storm and Dominic both had incidents out on track and retired from the session. So we have 15 runners left in qualifying. And I must say, Dominic, even though he crashed out after his first lap, he's still in 13th right now with a respectable lap time. So he's got to be kicking himself right now because he retired with looking like some kind of good pace. He had a good banker lap. But unfortunately, he will start no higher up in 13th position.
Yeah, and it's been an intriguing session all around. We've had some disqualifications due to game issues. We've had one person retire without setting a lap as Xerox goes onto their hot lap. Nico also going onto their hot lap. So it's Williams versus Williams coming across the line with 3 minutes left to go in the session. A lot of our drivers coming out of the pits for their final run here.
Xerox really just invalidated, though, so we're going to keep an eye on Nico, I think. Oh, I just commentator cursed them. I'm so sorry.
Always the way. Always the way.
As you were.
So who do we have next? F1 Racer is on a hot lap at the moment. Let's go with them. They are 1/10 up by the look of it as they come in through Sector 1. Sorry, 100th, I should say. But that does look like it's purple. Yep, that is the best Sector 1 of the session so far. Coming into the S's of Sector 2 now. This is where we see a lot of tyre deg around this circuit, to be fair to you. And this is kind of where you need the downforce as well. To just keep it in between the lines and keep the stewards happy. 47 hundredths up, and again, the best Sector 2 of the session so far. Into the stadium section, very clean through there. Playing it very tight around the outside there to avoid the yellow flag. And across the line in a 1:14.1 puts them pole position.
F1 Racer, I was going to say before that lap, he was up in provisional pole at the start towards the front of the session, but he was down all the way into 8th. But he just set a blistering lap there. And what do his rivals have to say? Xerox is going to be on another one, but he invalidated again. So Xerox not having any luck here on his final runs, and I think he will not improve from his 4th position. Nico, meanwhile, about even on his first sector on this second lap on the set of tires. He's going to be certainly low on field. This will be his last chance, our race winner from last week, looking to keep his momentum going, although it will be tricky from 9th position. Behind him, Persegili has invalidated a lap as well. So a lot of drivers starting their final flying runs. Matty 29, meanwhile, in the first few corners right now through Sector 1. We'll keep an eye on the Red Bull. Jan Fehler also a little farther up the road. Fehler was not improving through the first sector. Can he find time through the middle sector, though? That's what we'll keep an eye on here. The German driver looking to pip his fellow countryman. He's only improved by 16 thousandths of a second. That's not going to be enough. However, he locked up last time he was here in the stadium session. Hard to tell if that was good. I think it was a much better hairpin that time around. Surely Jan Fehler should have just enough to put it back on pole position. Puts the power down out of the final corner. It's a 1:14.144. He is clear onto pole position for now.
That is close, but as
Matty is over a 10th up right now through the middle sector alone. Can the Italian put it on pole position, Tipster?
Well, as they come around the final corner into the home stretch, and it looks good. It is 1:14.05 pole for the Tier 2 champion last season. But there is still competition out on circuit as we head over to Maestro Hoffi, who is coming to the stadium section now. Very clean around that very tight apex there into turn 17. And it looks like they are improving, but is it going to be enough? As the checkered flag waves, they go 6th. Crew 6 goes P2 with a 1:14.0 just behind Matty. Coming across the line now,
Mulkian dove
we have
into the pits.
Mulkian dove into the pits. Our mate is going to set a lap, but it's probably not going to be enough. P10 for our mate. Nico coming across the line. Sorry, no, that was Xerox diving into the pits. My mistake. They've both got the same driver number. Sky Kartoffel's coming round to set their final time of the run. And it looks like they're going to stay P15, only improving by 300ths. And it looks like Nico and Failer are coming in. Is Matty putting in a run? No, they are slowing down, I think. That's our final grid there, unless Galaxy... No, Galaxy has invalidated. So, our final grid as we go into the race. Matty on pole, Crew 6 alongside in the Aston Martin. Jan Failer in third, then F1 Racer in fourth. Xerox and Maestro Hoffi making up the third row. Gelbavand and Nico on the fourth. Then it's the Mercedes of Kev Genetics, the Red Bull of our mate. They're all locked into the soft tyre. And then moving further back, our second place finisher last week, Persegili, starts with strategic pole in P11. Galaxy in the Haas, P12. Mulkian takes 13th. Dominic retiring early, but still managing to clinch on to 14th there. Sky Kartoffel, 15th. Garrett, 16th. HD Storm, the new signing for the McLaren team, taking over from Creepy Drive, putting in a reasonable performance to start with, 17th on the grid. And then we have the Borna, Rivershan, and Lucas. Borna going to be starting at the back of the grid with, I believe, Lucas and Rivershan in front of them after their qualifying ban.
Yes, those are the final results. Matty with his first pole of the position. Of the season. Phenomenal lap by the Italian. Kev Genetics, meanwhile, is going to rejoin the session, restart his PC to hopefully fix some of his connectivity issues, so surely he'll get back in. He's starting in 9th position. But the whole top 10 committed to the soft tires. And something to note, I believe F1 Racer used 3 sets of softs there. So I didn't recall seeing anyone else do 3 runs on the softs. So that is going to be something to look out for here as we go into the race session now. While we wait for the drivers on the grid to get their setups ready to go and get the race underway, quick word from our sponsors. So thank you to SimSok. SimSok is the world leader in sim racing socks. If you need that competitive edge over your rivals, you feel like your feet are slipping just a little bit, look no further than SimSok.com today. They make some of the best sim racing socks. They got nice grippies on the toes and the heel sections for your throttle and brake and clutch pedals, so you can get the most out of your feet pedals or your feet when using SimSok. Go ahead and check them out on SimSok today, or SimSok.com today. And thank you to our other sponsor, Driver61. Driver61 is a renowned content creator who also has a driver academy with his dozens of coaches that he has to his disposal. If you're looking to see if you can find some extra time, figure out where you're losing a little bit of time, look no further than driver61.com today. And use code AOR Driver61 for 25% off a consultation session plus a free coaching session. That is code AOR Driver61. Thank you to Driver61 for the sponsorship today. Now, Tipster, we see the timer is counting down. Looks like the drivers are readying up. We'll get Kev back in here as soon as possible as the formation lap does begin now. What tire compounds are we going to see on the rest of the grid is going to be the question of the hour. And it's looking like a variety from the back of the grid.
Yeah, it looks like we've got Persegili, Galaxy, and Mulkian all opting for mediums to start. Maybe even opting for the one-stop strategy. HD Storm definitely is, by the look of it, on the hards. Then we've got Dominic, Sky Kartoffel, and Lucas on the softs, trying to get the early pace advantage there.
Yeah, I think it's going to be interesting. Now, we saw Lucas, he retired in the pit lane, but he's going to be definitely way out of position. We expect to see the Brazilian work his way up. He did not have a good Saudi Arabia, but he already has 2 wins to the season, to his name on the season right now, and has finished in the points every race so far. So interesting to see what the Brazilian can do from 19th. But up at the front, we have Matty29, the Italian driver. He had a podium in Hungary. Otherwise, he's kind of just been getting mid-level points. Didn't have the best of finishes last week in Saudi Arabia, but he's going to lead the way off the grid here today in Mexico. However, this is going to be one of the longest runs to turn number 1. And yes, it's always good to get the best out of your feet pedals. I had a little bit of a stumble on words there. It's always good to get the best out of your feet when using your pedals. So I think that's going to probably be the best way I can put it for now. But the feet pedals are very useful here in AOR. But anyways, back to what we were saying. Matty29 is going to have some work cut out for him because everyone behind him is going to be using him as a slipstream. Same with Krusix. Krusix, while he can get the jump on Matty29, if he gets a better launch, he's just going to be a tow for the likes of Failer, F1 Racer, Xerox, and Maester Hoffy. So turn 1 is about to get a little hairy, but I'm sure it's going to be very spicy once we get out of it and through the rest of the first lap. 36 laps here today in Mexico City for the Mexican Grand Prix. Round number 7 here for season 23. The lights are about to go out, and we're going to be underway as soon as the lights start to turn on now. And here we go, folks. The lights are on. We see 3, 4, and 5 lights. And it's boogity, boogity, boogity. Let's go racing. Matty29 with an okay launch, but Failer's already going up to his left-hand side and is already going to take the lead early. Krusix falling victim to F1 Racer, so the front row getting a horrible launch, and Failer looking to go the outside, but they're 4 wide going into turn 1. This is not going to end well. Matty29 very late on the brakes, gives Failer the squeeze. He's going to be side by side with F1 Racer, who has the inside line, but they're double file going into turn number 4. With the Ferrari a nose ahead, but the Red Bull on the inside line, once again braking very, very late, squeezes the Ferrari off a little bit, and the Italian driver trying to stay ahead, but the Ferrari is still there, but not there going into turn number 6. Matty29 leads the way, F1 Racer in second, Failer in third, having to defend from Krusix very hard, Xerox in 5th, Hoffy in 6th, but it looks like everyone's gotten through relatively cleanly through this first couple of corners.
Lucas, by the way, climbing
jinxed it.
10 places. 10 places in that first exchange. Really making up ground in this first lap here.
Up 10 places, but Xerox was round. Not sure if there's any kind of contact with him, but he did spin around through the S's. Persegili is also round as well, so 2 cars already spinning around. The 2 at the back are going to go a little side-by-side action. Persegili's tire's a little hot as Xerox gives him a little bit of a squeeze. But lap number 2 here, Matty29 leading the way as they go through the speed trap. Yellow flag in Sector 3. Armate into the pits as well. That's for a nose change, so maybe he had a little bit of contact there, which would explain what is happening to him. Meanwhile, Lucas side by side with Galaxy. As you can see, the game recommending some strategies. A little bit of a squeeze there. Drivers going around. Malkian is around also. Drivers really struggling at this stage with these fresh tires at the start of the race. But up at the front, still Matty29, followed by F1 Racer and Failer. We got a nice little DRS train forming. But you're right. CDR Lucas up into the points already. A phenomenal first lap, which I wish we had a replay of, but unfortunately we do not. And we'll just have to keep an eye on the action on the track right now. The top 16, though, all sort of within a DRS train. However, with Nico dropping out of DRS from KevGenX and now has a very quick Brazilian in his mirror who's going to go up the inside at the start of Sector 3. And Lucas is up into 8th position after starting all the way down in 19th.
And here's where the challenge really starts for Lucas. KevGenetics, a really fast lap through sectors 1 and 2. And Lucas just about keeping pace with them. So with the lack of DRS going into lap 2, they're going to have their work cut out to try and get into that top 7.
We also have Nico into the pits. This is also for a wing change. He might have made contact with someone early on. So Armate and Nico both with wing changes. I wonder if there was contact between the Williams pair on that opening lap. I mean, we don't know for sure, but both Armate and Nico have had to pit for wing changes. Persegili pitted for a set of hards. He's going to go to the end of the race. But a lot of these drivers looking for a safety car. HD Storm also as well, down to 15th, losing touch a little bit from the cars around him. So the top 14 all within range of each other. Lucas, though, trying to get back within DRS range of the top 7. He's pushing like crazy right now, the Brazilian flying through the S's. But DRS is enabled. Drivers will have DRS now, as the first eligible detection point is lap 3 coming through the S's between turns 9 and 10, with the next detection point for the final, or the other two, the big ones, the big detection zones, coming up here out of turn number 17 into 1 and turns 3 into 4. The double DRS detection point. F1 Racer surely going to use that to try to close it in. Matty 29. Mulkin, the first victim of time penalties here today. So that is going to be interesting indeed. A little farther back, Galaxy having to defend from Dominic. Dominic started on the soft tires, didn't have a good qualifying, but he's another driver who's really benefited off of that first lap. He's up into 9th place and now is in charge of pulling that second train of cars back up to the front train, but there's a 2.5 second gap that he has to close on the Brazilian up ahead.
Yeah, interesting thing to note, by the way, on Xerox, they've gone on to a used set of softs, and their tires are already pretty worn by the look of it. Already about 20% wear on them. So they must be going on to something that they used quite prolifically through qualifying. As we head towards the front, Failer is making gains on F1 Racer coming into the stadium section. And this is where we saw Failer make large gains in qualifying. Are they able to keep on the back of F1 Racer enough to get a good launch into the home straight? Across the line, DRS wide open and chasing them down. F1 Racer also with the DRS on Matty there as well as they come into turn 1. Hard on the brakes again, and Failer has made up about a 10th there.
You know, he made a 10th up on the Ferrari, but F1 Racer made up almost half a second on the Italian up ahead. So it is insane how much the DRS plays an advantage. And the other Alfa Romeo is around that Sky Kartoffel round through turns 2 and 3, and he's going to spin around again. His tires certainly overheated. Not sure if there's any contact that prompted the initial spin, but he is round and currently off the track. But Matty 29 looking mighty quick right now, the Italian flying at the front of the field. I think what's keeping F1 Racer in DRS range is this third detection zone, because Matty, look at that, he's 8/10ths clear. F1 Racer is going to get a little bit back there, probably a 10th or so, through 11 and 12, as Galaxy picks up a 3-second time penalty. But then look at this, through this final sector, F1 Racer barely staying under a second, goes 9/10ths, almost a second back. So Matty 29 trying everything that he can to break DRS, because he's already a second clear of the Ferrari behind him. Mighty impressive. We have another slow car through sector 3. That is Xerox. Not sure what has happened to the Williams driver. He has no front wing, no safety car, no virtual safety car, just a little bit of debris that the marshals will have to clean up. But Xerox not having a good day in his debut drive here for the Williams team. Or sorry, not his debut drive. This is his second race after debuting in Abu Dhabi. But another thing to know is Dominic 5.1 behind Lucas. So while he overtook Galaxy and took the lead of the second train, he's just not been able to reel in that top 8. So this field is really broken up into 2 groups. When then you have the 3 groups. You have the first group, the second group led by Dominic, and then the stragglers at the back. But maybe a third group is forming, because Maestro Hoffy has lost DRS to Gelbovan, and I'm sure Kev Genetics and Lucas are not too thrilled about that. So expect to see some moves here for 6th position, Tipster.
Yeah, as the Borner gets a 3-second time penalty for extending track limits for the 3rd time this race. It's starting to separate out. We're starting to see where a lot of the time is among our competitors as Failer starts to make time on F1 Racer up towards the front. But Kev Genetics making the pass on the Haas and allowing Lucas through as well. Maestro Hoffy now down to 8th in our middle section. Galaxy getting up the outside of Dominic there as well.
I think both of those moves were for the best for all the parties involved, because Mr. Hoffy did not have DRS allow Kev through to allow him to pull them a little bit closer back, possibly into DRS range of the top 5. Same with Galaxy. Let Galaxy through. Let him use his DRS to close the gap up a little bit up front. You know, it doesn't hurt to help out there. Rivershawn, meanwhile, who got this qualified in qualifying, picks up a 3-second time penalty. He's currently running in 12th. So not a bad recovery drive for the Mercedes as well. But we have a virtual safety car on track. Might be for Xerox, who's going rather slowly in Sector 3 right now. He has no front wing by the looks of it again. So the Williams driver bringing out this VSC and has retired from the race. So with the VSC right now, drivers are electing to pit. It's a free pit stop for our front runners. Matty 29 F1 racer. Krusik stays out. So let's keep an eye on the tire compounds being put on. Lucas and Krusik stay out. Maestro Hoffy stays out as well. A lot of the cars up front putting on mediums. They're going for the 2-stop strategy here. The mediums will not go to the end from lap 8 here. But this will allow a little bit more life, or allow these drivers to be on the softs for a little bit longer as it extends their lifespan. Xerox has left the session, unfortunately, but a lot of drivers in the pits right now. Very few have stayed out. HG Storm stayed out, of course, but the top 7 all staying out. DRS is enabled well and truly after Matty 29 got back on track. So a free and cheap pit stop for some of our race leaders. But let's see if Krusik, Lucas, and Mr. Hoffy made the right move in staying out, with Krusik 3 seconds clear of the Brazilian behind. But also staying out was Galaxy, Jared, Rivershawn, and the Borner, all who started on the medium compounded tire, so it made sense for them to stay out. Meanwhile, KevGenX on a fresh set of softs, trying to clear Gelbevand, but he's not able to make it work through turns 4 and 5. He's going to have to try again. He is going for soft, so he's going for a 2-stop strategy committed already. He needs to put on either the mediums or hard. So he's trying to use these softs, gain a huge advantage, maybe hope that he can run mediums to the end and just hang on, because softs at the end of the race are going to be electric compared to a set of mediums, or an even worse, a set of hards. So we'll have to wait and see. But Maestro Hoffy, meanwhile, dropped out of DRS range, but was within it by the detection points. That's something that's interesting here, Tipster. The detection point is through 14 and 15, but you can get an extra 10th or 2 on your rival behind through 16 and 17 due to dirty air. As we see Matty 29 clear the Borner and back up into 7th right now. He's got F1 Racer on his heels, but look at that. Jan Fehler is 2 seconds behind his fellow countrymen in F1 Racer. So the McLaren team not doing him a treat in the pits, because he was right behind F1 Racer on track. And as a result, he has lost some time on his rival. And right now it's Matty 29 and F1 Racer leading the way, with Matty 29 trying to break DRS on the Ferrari behind.
Yeah, it's interesting to see what's going to happen for our front runners here, because these softs degrade very quickly around this track. In fact, they're only good for about 6 or 7 laps, and then they kind of go off a cliff, unfortunately. And you've only got another 5 or 6 laps after that before you are starting to look dangerously close to puncture territory, as Maestro Hoffy elects to come into the pits for what looks like it's going to be a new set of mediums, looking at the Haas garage there.
That would make the most sense, that's for sure. KevGenX goes purple to 16.6 on the softs. Not surprising there, as he is going to be flying for a little bit. But something we have to note. So while the softs do get a little bit of extra time there, one thing that's very important to remember, as we see F1 Racer get around Rivershawn. He's trying to keep with Matty 29. There's now 2 cars between F1 Racer and Fehler. Both those cars have not pitted in the form of Rivershawn and the Borner. So Fehler is currently stuck by a roadblock from the net top 2. Meanwhile, Maestro Hoffy came out, look at that, 6.1 seconds behind Gelbevand. So staying out during the VSC has not worked in his favor. Yeah, he can go a little longer, sure. But as the Borner loses out a few positions to KevGenX and Fehler, by Maestro Hoffy staying out, he's completely lost touch with the drivers he was racing with prior. Now, in terms of tire wear, Krusik did qualify on the soft, so he's going to be struggling a lot. But the one thing about Lucas staying out is that, remember, he didn't set a single lap in qualifying. He has 3 fresh set of softs, including the ones he started on, which is what he's currently on. So he's reeling in Krusix. He can go a tad bit longer on those softs while they'll still be good enough. And, you know, he's going to be able to stretch out these soft stints because he has all of those fresh sets of tires. So it'll be interesting to see what the Brazilian opts to do. Now, of course, that early safe VSC does not help his race at all because he's still going to come out of the pits near where Maestro Hoffy is and well far back from Failer and the rest of them, who's currently clearing Rivershawn up the inside, with Rivershawn also having his teammate behind him, so surely he's not going to hold up his fellow Mercedes driver who's on the faster tire that is much, much fresher at this stage. So that is something to watch for. The Brazilian playing a strategy game, but Krusix right now probably hanging on for another VSC or going as long as possible. Maybe even go for a one-stop strategy.
Well, it seems to be working for the Brazilian, considering they were almost 7/10 faster than Krusix last time round. So they're certainly gaining the time out there and will be within DRS range fairly shortly, within the next couple of laps by the look of it.
Actually, I'm brainstorming here. What if they stayed out? So Lucas on a fresh set of softs, okay? Hear me out. Krusix,
okay.
He sees the fact that they have a VSC and extended soft lights. I don't think these top two are going a two-stop strategy. I think they're trying to one-stop. They're going to they're probably going to put on a set of mediums and go to the end of the race. You could, if you can get those softs to lap 12, you'll make it to the end. They'll go into puncture territory, but you will make it to the end as Matty29 looks to clear not one, but two cars that have not pitted yet in the form of Jared and Galaxy. He does get Jared, but Jared, of course, has his teammate behind him, an F1 racer, so surely he's not going to hold him up there. But, and same with Galaxy up ahead, who's not a teammate, but Galaxy does have DRS, so this will make things interesting. And he does stay ahead of Matty29, but Lucas and Krusix stayed out. They probably got an extra lap back on those tires because of the VSC. They're going to go for a one-stop strategy here. Because you can do 24 laps on the mediums. They're going to suck at the end. But they'll have a slight advantage with these guys on 4 to 5 lap old mediums by the time they pit. And then when the drivers who pit for softs come out of the pits, it's a 20-second pit delta. So while they're going to be a lot slower staying on those old mediums, you're telling these guys, look, I'm betting that I can stay more than 10 seconds clear of you. As we see Lucas into the pits now, off with a soft tire. But they are banking on the fact that this stays green to the end of the race, and they have enough pace to hold off those charging soft runners at the end. So let's keep an eye on that. But I think that's what they are doing, because otherwise it would have made sense to pit when Maestro Hoffy did, or pit under the VSC. So keep an eye on that.
I mean, it looks like, at least for now, what you're saying is coming true as Lucas comes out P11, fighting for P11 with Maestro Hoffy coming down into turn 1. Has the DRS and goes on to the set of mediums and is going to have much better tyres than everyone else in front of them. Admittedly, they're currently 3.5 seconds back from the points, but if they're only doing a one-stop, this is big.
This is huge indeed. We're going to look at the gaps to the leader now. So Krusix 10.8 clear of Maddie. Maddie has finally cleared not the lap traffic, but the traffic who could be doing a one-stop strategy. I mean, they could be doing two-stop and doing two sets of softs, but Galaxy, the Borner, Rivershawn, and Jared, all cork on the bottles for the former frontrunners. It's held them up a lot, which has done a treat for Krusix and Lucas. Lucas 19 seconds behind. He's 9 seconds behind Maddie at this stage. So he's looking to reel in the Red Bull. However, his issue is going to be the issue that was Maddie, is it's those cars that have not pitted. That is what is going to be his kryptonite at this stage. As Kev Genetics, look at this, using the soft compounded tire, he got around Failer, and now he's going to get around F1 Racer as well. He's got the inside line. Both drivers have DRS, but Kev, using his grip out of the final corner, using a little bit of extra battery, is through and up into 4th position. So while he's not in a good position for the end of the race, he is still in a good position here. He's also going to pick off Galaxy. Galaxy got a little squirmy out of turn number 3. He's going to go for the outside line. They're going to bang a little bit of wheels, but Kev is going to brake much, much later on those 5-lap-old softs, which are still better than those mediums, and he is up into 3rd position. Kev Genetics on those softs is on a charge, which is exactly what he needed to do here.
Yeah, and Galaxy's mediums are starting to scream at this point. 13 laps old. They're starting to show their age somewhat. The grip starting to come away from them, really. Kev Genetics actually making time on Matty as well, coming into the stadium section. Going to have a lot of grip through these very tight corners, along with this slow right-hander into the home stretch. And I believe they're going to have DRS as well.
Question is, does Galaxy have DRS behind? He does. He barely got DRS, and that's going to help him. That's going to help F1 Racer and Jan Failure keep in touch. But here's the interesting thing. You just said Galaxy's struggling on those old mediums. There only were 13-lap-old mediums, now 14-lap-old mediums. Lucas and Krusix are trying to do double that on their mediums. Well, Krusix not double anymore because he's still out on those softs, which is very impressive. But they're looking to do double that on the mediums. So that just goes to show how much of a bold strategy it is. As Nico also retires from the Grand Prix, he is retired in the pit lane. So both Williams drivers out today. Our winner from last week has decided to retire from the session with the driver that he was battling in Perseguili also still on track and in 18th position as it stands. But yeah, I mean, it's a tall order here. You got Krusik still leading the way, 7.5 clear of Maddie. Kev Genetics, meanwhile, has broken DRS on F1 Racer. So things are about to get a little spicy. So definitely keep an eye on it as it goes. We also have a stopped car. Oh, that's Sky Kartoffel in the pits right now. What is going on here? Sky Kartoffel was held in the pits by Nico's retired car. Huh. Krusix dives in the pits, so does Galaxy. But okay, we're going to have to report that one to Codemasters. That is a new one. So Nico retired in the pit lane. Sky Kartoffel, his AI chose to not drive and wait behind the retired car. And as a result, Sky Kartoffel has lost a lot more time and has just fallen a lap down. So that is heartbreak for the Alfa Romeo driver. Krusix does pit from the lead, but he is now 6 seconds behind his rival on a similar strategy in the form of Lucas. Now, he does get multiple lap fresher mediums, but was staying out on those softs for that little bit longer worth it? We'll have to wait and see. But Kev Genetics, our new race leader, overtaking Mag 29 while we were taking a look at the Sky Kartoffel glitch. Leading the way. Yellow flag through sector 2 briefly. Not sure what that was for. But Kev Genetics on those softs leading the way. Jan Failure, meanwhile, was able to clear F1 Racer. He's back up into third position on the mediums, trying to get within DRS range. Can he do it? He needs to get it through here, through the stadium section. It looks like he's going to get it. The detection point on the exit of 14 through 15. He was within a second there. He pushed as hard as he needed to. And we're going to see the rear wing fly open on the McLaren as the top four all within range. Gelbovan, meanwhile, don't forget about him. On the same strategy as the other top four. He's out of DRS range, however. He is trying to close back in with his 3-second time penalty as it stands. But
meanwhile, in the battle for 8th, Maestro Hoffy is opting to stay behind the Born, nose to tail with them as they make their way through the zigzags of 1, 2, and 3, opening up the DRS down the second straight there. The Alpine swerving across the line there just to keep Maestro Hoffy behind. And they are wheel to wheel as they come around one of the tighter turns on the track here into the S's. They are pretty much neck and neck. Maestro Hoffy with the inside line. And it looks like they've managed to secure the position, but can they keep it? Because Laborna is going to have DRS on them through the back here, certainly gaining time, but it doesn't look like it's enough as they're coming into the stadium section. Very tight turns through here with Laborna on a lot older tyres at this point. Laborna's going to have DRS through the back.
A very spicy battle indeed. Maestro Hoffy able to make it through. As you can see, there is a slow Alfa Romeo as well. I believe that is Perseguili. So that's Sky Kartoffel, just yielding positions to the drivers around him. Galaxy goes quickest with a 1:16.7. Meanwhile, not his teammate. Kev Genetics up at the front. I don't know why I was saying his teammate. But Kev Genetics up at the front. His soft start have seen better days. Now you can see Mag 29 really reeling him in. but look a little behind him. You got the top 4 within DRS range. Galvan dropped off a little bit because he does not have DRS, but there comes Lucas on the fresh set of medium tires. So staying out longer. It looks like he pitted at the right time for those mediums. He's starting to reel in those other cars because a lot of that lap traffic, sorry, not lap traffic, but guys who started outside the top 10 who held up those front runners has played a magnificent treat as we have Galvan, who is round and into the wall through the S's. He lost it on his own. Hard to tell if he has any wing damage. It looked like he did hit the wall, but he's going to keep it going. And the Aston Martin driver, who was running 5th, was having a phenomenal race, is now down into 10th, still in the points, but unsure if we have any damage. Meanwhile, Sky Kartoffel is round as well. The Alfa Romeo driver, whose day has already gone horribly, has just gotten a tad bit worse as he's now a lap and a half down. Back up at the front, though, Matty29 biding his time. I think at this point he's like, all right, let's just sit behind Kev X. We know Kev is going to have to pit again. Kev's also out of battery, so let's just let the Mercedes pull us along, go for a move when it's optional, and see if you can put Kev on his worn softs between him and Matty. But Kev's surely going to pit soon. Sky Kartoffel, meanwhile, has retired in the pit lane. Galvan, meanwhile, pitted for another set of mediums. He might have had damage there as well. He's going to go to the end of the race, but he's going to come out all the way in 16th position. So heartbreak for the Aston Martin driver, who is on track to have one of his best days of the season. While he had a podium in Spa, he was looking to get another top 5, his third one of the season, and it would have been the third in the last 4 races, but now he's down in 16th, running adrift from the rest of the grid. But Sky Kartoffel retiring from the session after being a lap and a half down. He got held up by a new glitch, and that is heartbreak. Meanwhile, Krusix does get around Jared going into the 3rd sector. Dominic picks up another time penalty. So here's something that we need to note as, oh, there's the Borner is round in the background, keeps it out of the wall, but the Alpine lighting up his rears through the stadium section is going to cost him massive time to the likes of Galaxy behind. Up at the front, meanwhile, Matty29 going up the inside of Kev X through turn number 1. Kev's tires really failing him now as Matty looking to probably pull Kev here. He doesn't want Failer to get through on Kev right now. Yes, there, he's giving the slipstream to Kev X, but Failer's already through. Failer also looking to go for a double overtake here down the second DRS straight. He's still there, but Matty29 able to brake late enough and hangs on to the position. F1 Racer, meanwhile, looking to also pick off Kev X. So this lap has gone horribly for the Mercedes driver on those older soft compounded tire as he drops from 1st to 4th in about as many corners, Tipster.
Yeah, and if I'm Kev at this point, there's 2 options here. Either I try and stick with them, keep the toe for a little bit longer, or, you know, I'm considering coming in for the mediums at this point if I'm Kev.
Yeah, I think at this point, as soon as you lose the slipstream, as soon as you lose DRS, you got to pit. But maybe extend the soft stint a lap or 2 longer. Let the mediums work out for you, because if you don't know where you're going to come out. He's probably going to come out in clean air. So just, you know, extend the stint a little bit longer, and then once you see you're starting to drop, or maybe even fringe losing DRS, once you get to that point, then pit. Because he's on 12-lap-old softs. Excuse me. So, yeah, he definitely needs to pit. As we have a move for the race lead, that is Jan Failer through at the front, using the DRS to get through on Matty29. The German, our championship leader, taking the race lead for the first time today. But Matty29 is going to be hot on his tail, and Matty has been very fast all day long in that Red Bull. The Italian seeking his first race victory of the season. It's been a really good drive by the Red Bull driver as he looks to probably try to retake that lead on the next lap around. But the more these guys battle, the more time it gives for the likes of Lucas and Krusix to close back in, because Lucas right now 1.9 behind Kev X, Krusix 4.5 behind him. The more battling these top 4 do, which they weren't really battling there last time around, but the more they battle, the better it is for the Brazilian and Aston behind, because these guys could try to go to the end on their mediums that they are currently 12 laps old, but I don't think they will last. I think they do go into puncture territory, so they're going to certainly pit for a fresh set of softs. Kev does have to pit. He has not gone on a set of tires other than the softs. So at this stage, you know, the AlphaTauri driver is almost within DRS range, and he is the biggest threat to all these guys up ahead, because his gamble of saying, look, I believe that well, on that final stint, I believe that I am faster than you guys on that final set of softs, I can be 20 seconds faster over that final set. Or not 20 seconds slower, excuse me, on that final stint. If that makes any sense, Tipster.
I kind of lost your meaning in...
He's taking the gamble that when all these guys pit for the fresh set of softs at the end of the race, that he will not lose 20 seconds to them, because that is the pit delta. So that is his gamble. Crucix is now betting that he is 16 seconds faster, considering the gap between him and Lucas, maybe 15. But those are the gambles they took. So who will it pay off for? Right now, it's looking really good for Lucas, who's almost within DRS range of Kev. Kev, who's now 8/10 behind. Surely he's going to pit this time around for that set of mediums. So I think that makes the most sense if you are the Mercedes driver. You're about to lose DRS. Lucas is going to have it behind you. Might as well put on the fresh set of mediums. Go for a little bit of an undercut here as we see him dive into the pit lane as Kev comes in for his final pit stop to put on one of the required compound tires, medium with the hards, but surely he's going on the mediums. Sky Kartoffel has left the session. Unsurprisingly there, his race has not gone well. Lucas, meanwhile, did get DRS, but he's out of range. Maestro Hoffy, a little farther behind. I haven't really talked about him a lot after, well, I haven't talked about him in a while, excuse me. He's just letting Crucix pull him along, while Hoffy will have to pit again, most likely. I don't think he can get to the end of the race on those 12-lap-old mediums. He's still going to put up a fight, so we'll have to wait and see what Hoffy can do. Galaxy is 9.1 behind on 6-lap-old softs. He will probably have to pit again. Same with Rivershan on 7-lap-old softs as we speak. Kev did come out in 9th position in clean air, 3.1 behind his teammate Rivershan on softs. So we'll see what Kev can do on those mediums. Front runners will probably come in and pit anytime in the next 3 or 4 laps. So I think it's going to be a matter of, do they all pit at the same time? Who goes for the undercut? Does F1 Racer go for an undercut and try to get ahead of the front two? Does Matty try to stay out long? What does Failer do? I think these are the questions they're going to ask. But Lucas, did he get DRS? That is the biggest question. As Failer dives into the pits, there we go. He goes for the undercut on his rivals. As Lucas, does he get DRS? He did get DRS. So that is huge. Failer diving into the pits. He's going to probably come out of the pits in 9th position around Kev Genetics on a fresh set of softs, and he has 18 or 19 seconds to make up if he wants to have a chance to win this race and beat CDR Lucas.
Well, the interesting thing up front is that they have a data point now on how well the mediums can do at the end of their life in the form of Garrett, who went 22 laps on the mediums, was only a second slower than Dominic in front of them. So it looks like the 10-lap difference is a second slower per lap. So it's only going to be a 10-second kind of seepage over time.
But the question is, well, how does that compare to a fresh set of soft tires for our championship leader?
Exactly.
That is the question that we all want to know the answer for. But the other question is, how quickly can he clear Rivershan and Galaxy, who are on those older softs? Now, Failer's certainly going to get DRS here out of turn number 11, but can he make the move before he gets into the stadium section? Surely he's going to have to if he wants to continue this progress. He's going to go up the inside, blast past the Mercedes, and he's up into 7th position. Meanwhile, Maddie and F1 Racer pitting from the race lead. They'll take 1 lap fresher softs, going for the overcut, as CDR Lucas takes the race lead. Crucix in 2nd. Maestro Hoffy stays out on those mediums, 14-lap-old tires. We'll see when he decides to pit. He could try to go to the end, although that might be a stretch there for him. But Maddie comes out of the pits well and truly behind Failer. Comes out right around Kev Genetics. So he's going to be behind Rivershan. Jan Failer with a very nice move. Dominic speeds into the pit lane. Actually, Kev Genetics looking to go up the inside of Maddie 29. They're going to go side by side, but Maddie using his tire advantage, giving a little bit of a squeeze to Kev, and he's going to hang on to 7th position at this time. Failer, meanwhile, making a move up on Galaxy into the braking zone of turn number 4 as he's looking to get back onto the podium. 9.5 seconds to Maestro Hoffy up ahead. Unsure if he's going to try to go to the end. He might, although that might be a little trickier than it would be for the cars around him. But the gap to the race leader, that's what we want. 15.2 seconds. Can Jan Failer make up that gap on a fresh set of softs versus 11-lap-old mediums? This is going to be spicy.
Indeed, it is. And with 11 laps to go, Only time will tell. Lucas up front, their mediums are going to start to drop off fairly shortly, probably around this lap, as Failer sets the fastest lap of the session so far, a 1:15.7. They are catching both drivers up ahead by 2 seconds per lap. That puts them in striking distance of Crew 6 in just 5 laps, and of Lucas in just 7. So we'll see how that pans out as we go along, as Gelbavand goes for the double into 10th down the front straight there into the end of Sector 1, and has DRS again down the back.
Yeah, but look at this. He's having to defend from a driver on fresh softs. Gives a big squeeze to Galaxy. Galaxy's surely going to put a hand up for that one because that was not too nice there. But Gelvan hangs on to the position. He doesn't have a time penalty, but he's on a fresh set, or not a fresh set of mediums, but he's having to hold back drivers on a fresh set of softs in the form of Galaxy and Rivershun. So Gelvan's day has not gone well. Meanwhile, Matty29 is in fresh air along with Kev and F1 Racer. F1 Racer stuck behind Kev Genetics, who's on those old mediums. F1 Racer lost touch to Matty29. Matty trying to get back in touch of Jan Failure, but we'll have to keep an eye on the progress. 12.3 seconds is the gap between Failure and Lucas. F1 Racer going up the inside of Kev Genetics. He's going to have the move done well and truly before they get to turn number 1. As F1 Racer up in the 5th, the Borner picks up another time penalty from 9th position. Now Gelbavan, all he has to do is let these soft runners behind him pull him along, because frankly at this stage he has only 3 seconds time penalties. You got 6 and 9 for Galaxy and Rivershine. A little bit of a squeeze there. Sure, Galaxy's not too thrilled with Gelbavan, but look at this. Rivershine trying to go for a double overtake. He's got the move on Gelbavan, tries to go up the inside of Galaxy, but Galaxy breaks much later and is going to hang on to the position. But Gelbavan picks up a time penalty, and that is not good. He can still pick off Rivershine, he can still pick off the Borner, but he needs to stay within 3 and 6 seconds respectively if he wants to get at least a point here today in his Aston Martin Mercedes. Yellow flag in Sector 2, that is, or Sector 1, that is Press Geely, who is round. We haven't talked about him too much, as his race has not gone well after having spun lap 1 down in 15th. Green flag once again. As you can see, the race leader is only less than a sector behind him in the form of Lucas. 3.9 seconds is the gap to Crew 6. I don't know if Crew 6, he's been out of battery for a while right now. I don't think he's going to be able to catch Lucas because he stayed out those couple laps longer. It looked like he was going to reel in the Brazilian, but once the traffic cleared up, it kind of just subsided that potential. So now it's a matter of, can he stay ahead of Failure, who is about 6 seconds behind the McLaren driver, all off his own. And the Borner has retired in the pit lane. So that is interesting. So now it's Gelbavan just has to stay within range of Rivershan. Dominic has 14 seconds worth of penalties, so he's not going to improve that much. But Gelbavan just needs to stay with Rivershan and Galaxy up ahead. But the Borner opting to retire. Not what we want to see. Biggest movers of the race, Tipster. I think there's one biggest mover, and he's currently provisional driver of the day, and I think it's obvious who that is.
Yeah, Lucas up front. From the back to the front, pretty much. Are they going to push it all the way? I mean, there's no real point them pitting at this point, so they're just hoping these mediums can hold on for the rest of the race. They must be about half won by now. As they come down the home straight for lap 29 of 36. Other big movers out there, we have Rivershan in 10th, managing to make their way into the points from the back as well. And Garrett as well, P8. Started P16, is now P8. Those are our big movers from the start of the race.
Yeah, some very big movers. Our biggest losers are certainly the Williams pair of Nico and Xerox, both of them not having good races, pitting lap number 1. Also, Crew 6, while we were talking about biggest winners and losers, Crew 6 picked up a 3-second time penalty, but something I've noticed, Failure's progress has stalled a little bit since the last few laps. Matty29 has also stabilized at 4 seconds behind F1 Racer, a second and a half, looking to try to get within striking distance of the Red Bull up ahead. Let's look at something. What's the battery level for our top 5 runners, Tipster? Are you able to provide that?
So, Lucas, with about half of their ERS left in play, Crew 6 looking to build, only about 20% left. Same with Failer, who's coming round the final bend now. Matty, with probably the most out of all of them, 2/3 of their battery left, and then finally F1 Racer, looking to build here. Has got about half their battery left as we go into the final stage of our race here in Mexico.
So it'll be interesting. Can F1 Racer use that battery to reel in Matty? Can Matty use his battery to maybe claw back up on Failer? I mean, that's a 4-second gap we're talking about that he has to reel in. However, Failer's on a lap older set of tires. So
well, you were saying Failer's kind of petering out, but from what I'm seeing here, 2 seconds on their first lap, 1.5 on the next, 1.2 seconds gained on this one just gone. They're certainly slowing down the rate at which they're gaining, but they are still gaining considerable time on Crew 6 with 6.5 laps to go here.
yeah, I mean, you're not wrong, and he did just pull out a half second on Matty there, and F1 Racer behind. So Jan Failer absolutely flying. So I stand corrected. I apologize to Failer here for when he watches this back, but 6 laps and a sector to go. He's got to still gain a second a lap here, though, if he wants to win this race, let alone also not only do that, but he has to make a pass for the race lead, and Lucas has a lot more battery than him that we know of now. Crew 6, all he has to do is get within 3 seconds due to that time penalty, and he is almost there already. So surely Failer's going to finish in the top 2 as it stands, but can Lucas hang on? That is the question of the day. Also, something to note with Matty. He lost a little bit of time previously, but he's really strong, I think, where there's downforce needed. So I think he's running a little bit more downforce than the likes of Failer, because he did drop off a little bit that last lap going into the middle sector, but he gained it all back through the final sector. You look at the straight line difference. It looks like Failer's running a little bit less wing, because you just kind of look at the delta between the two of them, and it's surely fluctuating. Another thing that is fluctuating a lot is Crew 6 is now 2.3 behind Lucas. So I hope Crew 6, one of those warnings maybe was an accident and get removed. I doubt it. But how interesting would that be if he could reel in Lucas and potentially try to win this race on track? That's what we'll have to see, because there's now a 2-second gap between him and the Brazilian up ahead. The Brazilian, who's on how many lap-old mediums? 17 lap-old mediums to 14 lap-old mediums to 6 lap-old softs to 5 lap-old softs. So that is the tire situation for our front runners right now, with Kev on those mediums as he has fallen off a little bit, but he's still respectively 3.5 seconds clear of Mr. Hoffey, who does have 6 seconds penalty. So I think our top 6, and maybe a fluctuating order with Crew 6, is relatively stable as it stands, with 5 to go.
Yeah, and I've lost my train of thought again. Sorry, yeah, Crew 6 burning their battery, by the way, to get within 2 seconds of Lucas there. Almost entirely empty through that back sector. Mostly using it to get as much speed as possible out of that final turn, turn 17, into the home straight, trying to get as high an acceleration into the longest straight on the circuit. It seems to be working out for them, but Lucas has the battery to defend. So Crew 6 have got to really consider when they start building those reserves back up, as Failer is starting to close in on them as well. Less than 2 seconds separating them as we go into lap 33 here at Mexico.
Yeah, and so one other thing, let's look up, Tipster, if you don't mind. We know Crew 6 has a penalty, but what is the warning situation for his rivals? Because right now, if Lucas were to pick up a penalty, it's an even playing field with Crew 6. Same with Failer, as the gap between them is roughly the same. As you can go to the gaps right now, interval 1.8 between the first and second, and now Failer has dropped that to 1.5 between him and Crew 6. He is flying. Matty's still about 4 seconds behind Failer up ahead. But with 3.5 laps to go, Failer looking like he's got a shot at winning this race on those softs, which might be starting to die, but they're not surely as bad as those mediums that are about 20 laps old on the car in the lead and a few laps less right in front of him.
So I can't actually see any warnings for either Lucas or Failer at the moment. It is quite a long race director screen, by the way, tonight.
Maybe go to their individual ones. And while you do that, thank you to John Bressler for the $5 donation. We appreciate your support here for the channel, and we'll continue to provide some great racing content between F1, ACC, Project Cars, and more in the future. 3 laps to go here, Tipster. I'm sure they probably are running on 1 warning at most, but we're not going to jinx it. Failer has used all of his battery, though. So is Crucix. Both of their lights blinking. Failer trying to get within DRS range of Crucix. If he can do that, he's surely going to use that to pull him up to the rear of the Aston, who runs really wide through turn number 3. That might be the move, or the mistake that Failer needed to get DRS range. Surely he's now well and truly within the range of his rival up ahead. Failer, go on.
Speaking of in-range, Rivershan making a move up the inside of Galaxy for P9. And now chasing down Garrett up front, less than a second separating them. Back to you, Fizzy.
Garrett and Rivershan is a battle for position, both with 12 seconds of time penalties. Galaxy, meanwhile, doesn't really have to fight too hard because he has 6 seconds less on penalties, so he will surely still get points. But yes, now can Crucix. What does he do here? Does he defend hard from Failer? Neither him, he doesn't know Failer's battery state, but he does not have much battery to defend. Failer does not have much battery to attack, but DRS here as Maddie picks up a 3-second time penalty. That is tears for the Italian. He's going to lose position to F1 Racer unless he can build 7 seconds or 7/10 to the Ferrari behind. But here, look at this. DRS is worth more than half a second for the front straight alone. Jan Failer has gained all that already. He's going to go up the inside of the Aston Martin, and he is through on the penultimate lap through turn number 1. Jan Failer is up into second position. He needs to find 6 seconds. Crucix picks up a second time penalty. It is not going well for the Aston Martin driver, who's going to lose out. And now that might open the door for F1 Racer to finish 3rd as it stands after getting that penalty. Kevin has disconnected from 6th position. That is tears for the Mercedes driver. He's done 90% of the race, so he will get stored, but he might lose out on some times. We're going to quickly send him another backup invite. Maybe he can get back in here for the last lap, but we're going to keep an eye on the action for the race lead. Lucas burning his battery, trying to keep out of DRS range for Failer, but Failer has the DRS going into the final sector here on the penultimate lap. Jan Failer, does he have enough in the tank to go for the move? He's on the fresher tires, but he doesn't have the battery level that the Brazilian has up ahead. On to the final lap. White flag sponsored by Driver 61. Can Jan Failer win the Mexican Grand Prix? Lucas has used all of his reserves, both drivers, with no battery. It's going to be a DRS race here on out, folks. It's 2/10 going into turn number 1. Failer right on the gearbox of Lucas, who stays ahead. But here is going to be arguably the last overtaking spot into turn number 4. Does Failer get the run? Let's go on board with him. He is gaining. He's using all of the tank. He's not going to be close enough. Does he go for a late lunge? He does go for the lunge. Locks up. Both of them lock up. Lucas has the inside line. The Brazilian leaving just enough space for the German. Crucix getting into the battle as well. Lucas still on the inside. They're side by side. Failer sweeps around the outside. They're still neck and neck going into the S's. Failer has the inside line. Lucas swoops around the outside. He's still ahead, but there's still a DRS detection point to go. So this battle might not be over. Lucas is still ahead. Can Failer make the move here into turn number 12? What does he do? He throws a dummy. He tries to go around the outside. Lucas covers the inside. A little bit of contact between Crucix and Failer. Failer goes for a dive. He cannot get it into turn 13. Lucas has one last real braking zone to go, and he is going to hang on. The Brazilian pulls off the one-stop strategy and wins in Mexico City. Jan Failer second. Crucix third on track. Maddie will take third. F1 Racer ends up stealing a podium by 3/10 over Maddie, who will finish fourth. Crucix finishes in fifth after pulling a one-stop strategy. Baser Hoffy gets sixth. Kevjanex seventh, although Kev might have lost time due to that disconnect and might get 6 back. But what a finish there, Tipster. A nice battle for the win. Lucas gets his 3rd race victory of the season. So how about that for the Brazilian driver? most wins on the season for him, and he's going to gain a little bit on his rival.
I'll tell you what, Lucas was cutting it close there, hitting puncture territory just as they crossed the line. Speaking of close calls as well, Crew 6, their fuel light was flashing for the whole of that last entire lap. It was tense racing here at Mexico as we finalize our grid and Molkian crosses the line.
Absolutely phenomenal final last lap of the race. Failure made the two-stop strategy work and was able to get up in the second, but Lucas hung on, pulled a one-stop strategy. He did almost the last of first challenge, 19th to first place. A dominant performance here by the Brazilian, a masterclass of a drive as he holds up the championship trophy, and he wins in Mexico City. Great drive by the Brazilian. He's going to cut into Jan Failler's championship lead by 7 points. I don't believe Failure had the fastest lap in the top 10, but if he did, then that's going to one less point. That's he's going to gain on.
Fastest lap in the top 10 was Failure with a 1:15.7.
So it's a 6-point gain then. 32 points will be the difference between the two of them. F1 Racer does come on the podium, so he will hang on to second in the Drivers' Championship. But wow, what a race there at the end. Lucas hanging on by 3/10 to beat Jan Failure, pulls the two-stop strategy. Failure had to use the VSC strategy, while Lucas was able to use the VSC, or he used the VSC pit stop, while Lucas used the VSC to extend his tire strategy. Now, we're going to quickly get the race director before everything goes on. Nico had collision with KevGenX on the opening lap, so that might explain why he had his wing damage. But we get the race director in the event that anyone needs their penalties removed, or it needs it for whatever other reason. F1 Racer third, Mag 29 fourth, Crew 6 in fifth. Vamos CDR indeed. Phenomenal drive by the CDR driver. Wow. Just wow. I think that's my response. Every week the racing here gets better and better. And wow, it is just fantastic scenes here in Mexico City, Tipster.
Yeah. Down to the wire racing once again, and seems to be the running theme this season. Less than 14 hundredths in it last week, and well, less than a second in it this one. So, I don't know. I think I need I think I need someone to check my heart medication after that.
Yeah, my heart is racing just as much as you. Wow, what a final result there. Man, that was crazy scenes. Lucas finishing on top. Failure coming home in second. Crew 6 finishing third on track, but those time penalties at the end, which I'm sure he picked up the second one just trying to keep within range and pushing as hard as he could. Unfortunately, not able to hang on to that podium spot, losing out by just a second to F1 Racer. Maester Hoffy finishes 6th. I believe KevGenX, though, lost a little bit of time due to his disconnect. So he might be able to get some time back. I wasn't paying attention to him on his final stint, but he might have lost out on track. Not 100%, because I do believe... Oh, Kev picked up a 3-second time penalty, so that might have been why. But we'll see what happens there. So him and Maester Hoffy 6th and 7th, Galaxy 8th. So some points for the Haas team. Not as much as they had hoped for. Rivershan in 9th, and Jared rounding out the top 10 as well. So 4 drivers starting outside the top 10 finished within the top 10 today. So that is interesting to see. But wow, truly a great race to watch.
Indeed it was, and wow, it's certainly going to shake up the driver standings a bit as well, whilst our computer tabulates everything. Fizzy, got to ask you, driver of the day, who's it going to?
There's only one, and that's going to have to go to CDR Lucas. Lucas, I mean, you don't go P19th to the win and not get driver of the day. I mean, it was a bold strategy. He didn't even do a single lap in qualifying. That's the more impressive thing. So he would have started in last if it wasn't for the accidental DSQ for Rivershan, who, by the way, also finished in the points in 9th position. So hats off to Rivershan as well. And Jared starting 16th and getting to the points. But, I mean, 19th to first is insane. And I agree with Maester Hoffy's message in the driver's chat. Is that was just, WTF, what a strategy. That was, I honestly thought that the one-stop strategy kind of got thrown out the window because him and Krusik stayed out. And at first, I'm thinking, they're just going to pit and go for a two-stop strategy, which is exactly what Kev did. And I think that is what hurt Kev's race by staying out there because he went soft, soft, medium. And staying out, he used the softs to catch up and not pull away from the guys on the mediums. So that is what kind of hurt his race. But you look at the strategy Lucas and Krusik were on. This is like with how long they stayed out for. And you see the VSC, you're like, well, did this really work out? Well, what allowed them to win this race for sure was the traffic that Failer, F1 Racer, and Medi 29 got held up in. Because Lucas was able and Krusik were both able to hold on to very, very good pace, a very good pace. But you saw their tires die off. And what balanced the scales for them after the VSC, which probably hurt them a little bit, was the fact that those drivers got held up in that traffic while they were all racing for position. And as a result, we have Lucas on top. Now, if the traffic isn't there, but the VSC is, maybe Failer does get Lucas. If the VSC is not there, but the traffic is, I think Lucas still wins. Maybe even Krusik challenges for the win. But end of the day, this is how it went, and Krusik drove it perfectly. And as you said, he was on the brink of puncture territory too, and the fact he was still able to hold off a hard charging on Failer with no battery to spare on the last lap there, phenomenal drive. Phenomenal drive.
I have to hard agree with you there. But also a massive shout out to River Shan as well for bringing it into the points there. In what isn't just like a race about what happens on circuit, it's a race about what happens in the pit lane as well. It's Mexico's one of those races that isn't just about your pure driving ability, it's about the strategics and the tactics of it all as well. And got to give credit to both of them where it's due. They played a brilliant strategic race tonight.
Yeah, credit where it is due indeed. Fantastic race today, and thank you for the kind words in the chat. I mean, we're just commentating over the action. I mean, yeah, you can thank us, but holy cow, the action on track. These guys, phenomenal racing every week. Tier 1 and AOR. It's always given phenomenal action. Might not have, the reputation that we've had in previous years, of course, but at the end of the day, we're still getting fantastic action, and we're trying to give it to all you, the viewers, as much as possible. We're not seeing any post-race interviews at the moment, Tipster, so we might just go ahead and give our final words now. Any final closing thoughts on how that race went?
Well, I said it wasn't just going to be won and lost on the track, and indeed we saw some incredibly bold strategies pay off tonight. Very risky, a slight change of wind, a later VSC, a full-blown safety car could have changed everything for both of our drive of the days there. But Mexico is one of those races that never ceases to surprise me.
I agree. Mexico gets its love-hate relationship. I think why a lot of drivers don't like it is because of the track limits, which is hard. It's a challenge. So it's a challenging circuit in that regard. But you saw today why it's such fantastic for racing. I love the track because of how much it flows, how much of the racing is there, and it always delivers exceptional racing, whether it be dry conditions, wet conditions like we've seen in previous seasons. Mexico is always a great place to see on the calendar. And some of the drivers, of course, like I said, might have mixed feelings on it. I mean, from a spectator standpoint, that was a phenomenal race, and it allows for multitude of strategies. You have a two-stop strategy, one-stop strategy. You got guys on hard, you got guys on medium, softs, and it's really a game of just who can outsmart who and who pulls off the best strategy on who has good pace. And wow, fantastic drive here today as we close out here today. Thank you for everyone watching here today. It's been another feature presentation of Apex Online Racing Formula 1 action. Round number 8 will come at you next week when we go to the land down under in Australia. So that should be a lot of fun. That was probably a horrible accident. In the words of Dumb and Dumber, g'day mate, put the shrimp on the barbie.
Oh no.
I probably just get cut off for that. But anywho, we'll be in Australia next week, same time as always for some more exciting action. We'll have to wait and see what the land down under brings for us here. And in the meantime, during the week or later today, we do have the Mexican Grand Prix for the North American League. The drivers who compete in the Western Hemisphere, somewhat of a home race for a couple of them. And then during the week, we got some ACC action, I believe, and some fun cups. That should be coming up with the Porsche and I believe the BMW. So I'm not sure if there will be streams for that, but keep an eye on that on the YouTube channel as well. And I believe the Project Cars 2 League is still running up and strong later on in the week. So plenty of AOR action still to come in this week and then come next weekend. So thank you everyone for watching. It's been another feature presentation of Apex Online Racing, sponsored by SimSok and Driver61. Go check them out at simsok.com, Driver61 today. And we hope you enjoyed your presentation, and we hope to see you again next time here in AOR.
Hasta drive safe.